must speak to the business objective, must speak to the individual development. And this is the two core of the L&D function. The business one and the individual employee on the other hand. Can we go to the next? Still talking about your strategy. So here are a few things that you should include in your strategy, right? So your L&D strategy should align with the business strategy, the overall business strategy. Your L&D strategy, right, should also state the co-ownership between the business unit and the HR, as it were. It's not in isolation. It has to work with the various business units and the various unit head. For example, this is very paramount or very consistent across the manufacturing industry or the FMCGs and all of those. So the units, the business units strategically have an input. Like, for example, you have a business unit that have a multifaceted production plan across. So you must look, you must come micro to each of these business units and look at it critically to see the competency, the skills, the behaviors that is aligned to the strategy that will help drive productivity, that will help drive performance, that will help drive the entire outcome within the business. So you also have to conduct an assessment of capability gap and estimated value. So we all know how this assessment is done, and that's another conversation entirely on how to carry out all of this assessment. So but an assessment needs to be done to ascertain what is missing, what is present, and what is expected, right? What do we have? What kind of skills and competencies do the workforce have now? What skills and competencies should the workforce have to enable the business? So having identified these capabilities and the gaps therein, you use the gaps to design a learning journey for each of the employees. Then after designing the learning journey, you also design an implementation for execution and scale-up. In all of this, you don't forget that you have to measure your impact on the business performance. Because without it, the measurement of the business, the measurement, of all of this at the end shows, your scorecard, what impact it has made to the business. Thank you. Next slide, please. Having designed the entire L&D strategy within your organization, the most important thing is to also implement same, right? Because of what you use is an L&D strategy that cannot be implemented or that is bogus or ambiguous. But very important here are a few steps you can practically use in implementing your L&D strategy in your organization. I think this work, whether in a small organization or in a bigger organization, also do not forget that it's not in isolation. To do this, the L&D team lead, the L&D manager, or whoever it is in the L&D space must be able to galvanize and, really gain the buy-in across the various departments, business unit, as it were, or plants, or whatever it is that is within your industry. So to implement this L&D strategy, you have to know where you're going. You must understand in clear terms what you want to achieve. You must understand in clear terms what the goals are. You must also identify who will determine the learning and development vision and objective. And this is where the various line managers, the various plant heads, or whatever it is, have their inputs, because you must have their buy-in. You must also understand what success looks like. You must have a vision, a clear vision of all of these. What the success looks like must be clearly spelled out and stated. So conduct an internal skill gap analysis. I've said that before. So it's also a way of implementing SIM. So identify the core learning needs and stay around it. Then create the learner's profile. Not all learners are the same. Not all learners are the same. You must be able to create the learner's profile. And don't forget that in the whatever it is, in your analysis of skill, whatever it is, you're going to have some employees who are actually high flyers with certain skills, right? And those, so you have this categorization, whether is an expert in that skill, having used such a skill over the years, you should know. If it's an intermediate with such skill, you should know. This analysis should give you that. Because what you give to expert in certain skill for training is not the same as what you give to intermediate or debutants, new entry people. So once you can get the profiling correct, it helps you to define what the learning content, curriculum as it were, will look like. Hello, are we together? Any question at this point? Contributions, addition to the conversation? Please feel free to jump on the mic. Okay, thank you very much. Please, next slide. Build your stakeholders relationship. You will need management support. Management support is very critical in this business. Management support, management buy-in is very, very critical. It cannot be overemphasized. Understand what the stakeholders' expectations are. Okay, maybe let me start by asking, as an L&D professional, who are your stakeholders? Who are your stakeholders? Please, you can drop a chart with me. Who are your stakeholders? Okay, somebody dropped a question here. At what point do we know L&D has been achieved? Okay, at what point do we know that L&D has been achieved? Okay, one, I would probably look at it from two ends, one from the business end and one from the individual employee end, right? At the end of each performance appraisal or performance appraisal, as it were, right? Can we see the needles move in respect to improved performance on the job across the various metrics that have been designed by the HR? If the needle has successfully moved, then we can say that L&D at that point has actually delivered its promise. Now, from the business end, right? Business stock profits, business stock improved process, business stock productivity, So we're going to be looking at how much profit vis-a-vis the previous year was made, how much process has been improved through L&D intervention, how much skills and competencies of the individual have been improved overall, business performance, organizational performance, maybe unit performance, team performance, or as it were, business unit performance. So all of this analysis would have to be done, and this has to be done with data. So for all of these processes, we're going to use data, feedback, using data to do this analysis and be able to identify whether the L&D is delivering on its mandate, delivering on its promise or not. I don't know if I've answered that question. And if anybody in the house also have an addition to that question, please let me hear you. Okay, the organization's employee and management are stakeholders. Amazing, amazing. That's Alimi. Thank you, Alimi. And John is saying stakeholders, learners, trainers, managers, people managers, management team, CFO, etc. Thank you, Alimi. Okay, amazing. So, our stakeholders, we know who the stakeholders are now. Now, as L&D professional, you have to build a working relationship with them, get their buy-in, get their support. It is very critical to the success of your strategy. Very, very critical to the success of your strategy. So, you know, some line managers can be very difficult, some very senior people or some of the stakeholders can be very difficult certain times. To get their buy-in is really not easy, let's be frank, especially those of us who have been in this operation for a while. You know, it's not easy because there's this perception from the operational people that feels like, what are they really doing? All these people that talk consulting, they are not on the shop floor. But beautiful to know that today L&D is on the shop floor. We don't just sit in the office. So we come down to look at the process, we analyze it, we look at it. And you know what? When you're always on the shop floor with the managers, when you're always on the shop floor with the line managers and the stakeholders, they begin to build trust with you. Because they'll be open to tell you what their challenges are. They'll be open to tell you what it is and what is not. But when you sit in your office and, you know, there seems to be a war, a cold war. There seems to also be an isolation, and there's a perception to the business unit and probably to the department, and especially those within the operations end, they don't even know what we do here. So what are they talking about? So you can schedule weekly visits, monthly visits to the shop floor. Ask critical questions. How can I support you? How can I support you to improve this process? The how. They will talk with you. What are the challenges? They will talk with you. And whatever your propositions is at this level, you often at time will get buy-in because they now see you as part of the process. This is very critical. Thank you. Let's proceed. Next slide, please. dig into data. This also speaks to the question that one of the participants did ask, please dig into data. Before creating any kind of plan, dig into all the data you can get your hands on. L&D audits, performance data, employee survey data, exit survey, attrition data. Use all of these data to your advantage. Use all of this data to your advantage. So we can't overemphasize the use of data in the L&D space. The HR team, exactly, the entire HR function is driven by data in the today HR function. So we can't overemphasize it. Next slide, please. So what skills? Skills L&D professionals need to stay alive, to survive in this competitive work environment. What skills do we need to stay alive? Very critical is that skill of self-awareness. But before I go into that, let's look at some of the skills mentioned here on the slide. Strong communication skills. Very strong with creative thinking. Don't forget that the entire process of L&D, to be able to deliver value, requires for creativity. And to be creative, you must think creatively. Strong interpersonal awareness. Self-aware. Strong planning and project management skills. Strong technology literacy. You will be able to use a good number of tech that is associated to your job. Strong planning. Comparatively, whether you're in consulting, whether you are in manufacturing, and the interventions are delivered using project management tools. So you must understand and develop that skills to help you manage project, because L&D interventions are delivered and they are projects. So for such, you require thorough planning and execution. All of these skills could be problem solving, leadership, self-leadership skills, business skills, consulting skills, ability to show empathy, be self-aware, emotionally balanced and stable. All of these come to play. And if you look at it critically, you see that it is required that the L&D professional comes hands-on with soft skills, or what we call people skills, very, very evident. Are we there? Looking at the skills those mentioned, please list the skills that you have. Strong communication skills, strong creative thinking skills. What skills do you have among all of these skills listed? 1, 2, 3, 5 of them, all of those. Which of them do you have? Which of them do you not have? It gives you an indicator of where your next line of development should be as an L&D professional. Looking at the skills on the screen, which do you have? Which do you not have? do an analysis, do a self-analysis of the skills, of your skill set. Some of you may have even much more than this. Like I said earlier, that there are other subset skills here that we cannot mention, but this comes very strong, especially in the L&D space. Communication is a dire skill. Creative thinking is a dire skill. Interpersonal awareness, self-awareness, and other awareness are dire skills that you need to really equip yourself with. Planning and project management skills are very dire needs to use technology across board. It's very, very essential. Next. It's also important to let us know that the skills so far listed above, hitherto, is not exhaustible. It's not an exhaustive list there. And that's why I said there are other subset skills therein embedded, right? And those skills actually, to a very large extent, speaks to the multiple hats that the L&D professionals wear. See, L&D professionals wear many hats. In your L&D career, you're going to become many things. And that is the interesting part of L&D. For those who are just joining the L&D space, it's important to know that you are in for a very big thing and prepare to be multiple things to different groups, different environment.